Harlem, 1968. A man collapses in a restaurant over a plate of fried chicken and grits. He dies quietly. No shootout, no sirens, just silence. But this wasn't just any man. This was the man who once waged war with the Mafia and won, who read Shakespeare in prison and ordered hits on the street, who dined with civil rights leaders and shot it out with mobsters. They called him the Godfather of Harlem, and he ran it with brains, blood, and a bulletproof suit. This is the story of Ellsworth Bumpy Johnson, gangster, genius, and ghost. A man who built an empire in the shadows of racism, corruption, and mob control. Welcome to part 1 of Harlem Hustlers, only on Learn Some. Hit subscribe and stay locked in, because what follows next is the real history of true American outlaws. Bumpy Johnson was born in 1905, Charleston, South Carolina. At age 10, he was sent north to New York after his brother was nearly lynched. Harlem was supposed to be his escape, but instead, it became his battlefield. Bullied for his southern accent and odd-shaped skull, where his nickname Bumpy came from, he fought back and never stopped. He dropped out of high school, joined a crew, and by his 20s, he was running with Harlem's hardest when he got hit with a burglary charge that landed him nearly a decade in prison. But behind the fists and firearms was a mind unlike any other. In prison, Bumpy devoured books, wrote poetry, studied strategy. He was equal parts street hustler and philosopher, an outlaw with a library card. Harlem shaped him, but he would soon shape Harlem. In the 1930s, Harlem's streets were run by Stephanie St. Clair, the queen of numbers. She took Bumpy in not as muscle, but as her war general. Together, they waged a bloody turf war against Dutch Schultz, a violent mobster backed by the Italian Mafia. The result? Over 40 dead, kidnappings, arson, chaos. But Bumpy survived it all and outmaneuvered them. When Schultz was finally assassinated, on orders from Lucky Luciano, Bumpy did the unthinkable. He cut a deal with the Italian mob. Harlem was his. The mob would back off for a price. It was a historic power move. For the first time, a black gangster stood as an equal at the table of organized crime. And Harlem saw him not just as a boss, but as a protector, a provider, even a kind of hero. But peace in the underworld is just an intermission. The 1950s brought a new poison: heroin. Bumpy dipped in cautiously, profiting, but never embracing the chaos it caused. The feds, though, were closing in. In 1952, they got him. 15 years in Alcatraz for drug conspiracy. Even there, his legend grew. Rumors swirled that Bumpy helped orchestrate the prison's most famous escape. True or not, the myth made him bigger than bars. When he returned to Harlem in '63, the streets threw a parade. But Harlem had changed. The heroin was stronger, the crew was younger. And Bumpy? He was a king in a crumbling kingdom. And one man in particular was watching Bumpy closely. A young driver. His name? Frank Lucas. In his final years, Bumpy tried to adapt, to hold the streets down without giving in to the drug-fueled chaos. But he was tired, and Harlem was slipping through his fingers. In 1965, under constant police surveillance, Bumpy walked into the local precinct and staged a one-man protest. Sat down, lit a cigar, dared them to arrest him, so they did. The judge tossed the case. It was his last public act of defiance. 3 years later, on July 7, 1968, Bumpy Johnson died of heart failure in Wells Restaurant. No shootout, no betrayal, just coffee, fried chicken, and the end of an era. Bumpy Johnson wasn't just a gangster, he was a chess master who played the streets like a grand board. A killer who read Nietzsche, a protector who gave out turkeys on Thanksgiving and paid rent for families he never met, and left Harlem proud. One thing certain, after Bumpy died, Harlem changed forever. And the young man who would take his throne wouldn't rule with honor. He'd rule with heroin. Make sure to subscribe for part 2 of our Harlem Hustle trilogy, Frank Lucas. As always, thanks for watching, and I hope you learned some.